Welcome to the Beantown Beatdown. Matthew Burris.
Gabe Shamus, also coming at you from Beantown.
Real quick, just wanted to say that we did try to do an episode of Ringside with Matt and Gabe,
Yes, we
but
did.
Unfortunately it got blocked by the UFC because of copyright grounds. And for now,
blocked down by copyright. I mean, we are truly fighting against the man here.
Yeah, so for now, we're suspending the show. Mm-hmm. We don't know if we'll bring it back or not, but just putting it out there.
Yep.
Cheers.
Anyway, cheers. Let's get into our headlines.
All right, getting the headlines. First and foremost, we have a new UFC welterweight champion. Tyrone Woodley knocked out Robbie Lawler in one round, straight right hand.
Oh.
And good for Tyrone Woodley, a great superstar in Strikeforce and a great contender in the UFC. Actually, him and Robbie Lawler are training partners.
Are they?
Yeah, American top team. But of course, it was business.
Right. I was about to say I don't know about him, but we did when we tried to do the ringside. We did watch Lawler and how he.
With Carlos Condit.
Yep. So that was him getting the welterweight in the beginning of the year, right?
Oh, no, he was already welterweight champion.
Oh, that was him defending.
Second title defense.
Yeah, exactly.
And let me tell you something. I mean, right now, you got to make Tyrone Woodley versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at Madison Square Garden in November. I mean, Thompson is already the number one contender, and that would make a good fight at the Garden.
I bet. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, we have a new WBA super featherweight champion featherweight. I think it is super featherweight. It's sorry.
So who is the champion and why? Just leave it at that.
Carl Frampton defeated Leo Santa Cruz, and it was a great fight.
Yeah,
it was a wonderful fight. I saw that match. It was a great boxing match at the Barclays Center. And for 12 straight rounds, these two just went at it. Just bam, 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 bam.
Nice.
Yeah, and actually Santa Cruz almost went down.
Really?
Yeah, in the second round. But he recovered quickly, and the fight could have gone either way. And, of course, this match has to be rematched sometime. If not sometime this year, maybe November, December, at least next year.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great fight. A little disappointed that my boy Leo Santa Cruz lost because I love watching him fight, but the fight could have gone either way, and the real winners, of course, were the fans.
Definitely. That's a good way to put it.
Yep. And also, going back to the UFC, we have an update on Joe Rogan. Of course, it's a week-old news, but we'll report it anyway. Joe Rogan has signed a 1-year contract with the UFC. So at least he's going to be on there for another year. The thing is, though, he will not be doing any more UFC shows on Fox. He is doing pay-per-view shows only, but the pay-per-view shows he will be doing will be in the United States. It will not be in Brazil or Canada or like that, because he says that, when he has had to do UFC events overseas, it made less time for him to do his podcast and do his comedy shows and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But at least we have him for one more year, and hopefully, I hope he still continues to work for the UFC. I mean, of course, the human being in me is going, hey, that's fine. He likes doing other things, and God bless him. But
right.
But of course, the fight fan in me is just going, please just sign for at least 6 more years.
Right. Yep. All right, good headlines there.
Next, and now we're gonna get into macho doesn't mean this.
Macho doesn't mean that. All right. So I'm going to be talking about something that is pretty old as time itself, but it's gone by a new name nowadays, which is calling bullshit. I'm going to call bullshit on that. Anytime something is happening, especially in the national conversation, a lot of with the press nowadays, with all sorts of stuff, with people that don't think things through but like to talk, whatever it is. There's a lot of people that say things very confidently that are not true. So I think a lot of people actually do agree that if you stand up and call bullshit against something that's not true, that actually does make you strong. So I think we are teaching our children that, so this is a little bit different than other macho doesn't mean that segments, where I do believe we're teaching people that, and I do believe that it makes us strong. But, we're also in a very polarized society. We're in a very, egocentric society, and so some people will say that it makes you strong to call bullshit, but then they don't like it if it disagrees with what they believe. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, exactly. For example, I have one good story of calling people out on their bullshit.
Okay, good.
Well, Abby Lee Miller, she was at the premiere of Bad Moms. And she was
which is the new movie out.
Yeah, with Mila Kunis, Catherine Hahn, and Kristen Bell.
Right.
And I was watching her interview, and she says that because they were talking about her case and her sentencing, and she says,
right,
I made a lot of mistakes, and then she says, well, it was just trusting the wrong people, and
right. We've talked about this before on the show about Abby Lee Miller and how she, how she degrades the kids that she work for her, and then
and now she's blaming it on other people, for her for her money woes. I mean, first she was blaming it on her former customers not paying, and then now she's blaming it on the people who were supposed to be entrusting with her money. She says oh, now I'm gonna do it myself. It's bullshit. Bullshit.
Right.
I mean, seriously. I mean, this woman, and she has a history of not taking responsibility for anything she's done.
Yep.
And
and you're saying that it's a court case now, right?
Well, yeah, especially in a court case.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I mean,
in a court case, people will bring out the big guns to reinforce their story, and you pretty much, if you have a chance, against the propaganda, you really do have to call it out.
Yeah, exactly. And also, she's a walking contradiction, as I said before,
Yep.
You know what? She got what she deserved. Fuck her.
Exactly. So anyway, you really do have to call things out, and the other thing is it won't always make you popular. It won't. Sometimes you'll be in the right place, and especially if it's an event around you. It's a presidential year right now. If the presidential candidates, when they have their own rallies and such, if they call out someone that the crowd already agrees with them, then cheers, woo, right? But if you call out someone and you don't know if the crowd agrees with you, half the crowd might not, or if you're certainly if you're at a rally around someone else and you say something against that candidate or that idea, then you are not going to be popular in the room. Nowadays we have YouTube, social media. Thank God for it. Thank God for all of that, because it will reach a wider audience. So then you'll find your audience that will applaud you, but you will not. For certain things, you will not be applauded in the room, and so it's important to not be swayed by that. It's important to stay strong, against stuff like that, because you might not be popular in the room, but it has to be said. A lot of times, something has to be said, and who was it? I think Senator Boxer, she said that if you go about everything always getting praise or always getting a standing ovation, then you're doing it wrong. And I think that's the unfortunate case in our society that actually is true. You can have a friendly crowd that will definitely, like I said, cheer for you, but sometimes when you speak truth to power, you're not popular for it. At least not in the room, and you cannot be discouraged by that. Basically, some people are led to believe that this stuff, that like the sort of talking narratives, it doesn't mean anything or whatever. But the truth is that's a complete lie, and that's actually made to make you less aggressive to correct the record and less aggressive to speak your truth, because it actually does matter, and that's why we get in such big fights over it. That's why we have presidential debates. That's why we have presidential conventions, which, by the way, I just came back from a presidential convention.
Yeah, you were telling me about that one. Yeah. That one in
Philadelphia. Yes, indeed. So yeah, I got to watch the speeches and all such of things, and again, we're trying not to get political, but one of the things that I heard is that they weren't being tough enough on their opponent, and it's a kind of unfortunate thing that you should be voting for something. You should be voting for your best ideas, but a lot of times, especially with people in the middle, you have to strike hard at your opponent and show why they're not good, and why especially nowadays they seem to be getting worse and worse. Why they're going to be terrible for the country.
I've been watching the news.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. A lot of the commentators were finally a lot more assuaged that they did go after their opponents, hard on the third night of the convention, and that was a lot better for the politics. So anyway, anything that comes up, let's see, I've had a few examples of this all throughout my life, so it's hard to pick just one. But actually, yeah, I can think of one. There was when I was in college, there was the quad, of course, was a huge space to express your ideas, and it's where a lot of debate happened. And one time there's these evangelicals, these Bible peddlers that that come in, and they make a big show of everything, and yeah, so I remember that they would just stoke the passions because people would get enraged by the stuff they were saying, and so maybe this isn't the best example because I think they also were kind of trolling. I wanted to get negative attention, but at the same time, sometimes they would be sometimes they would be allowed on the microphone. I used to speak at the microphone on the quad, but yeah, sometimes they would be allowed on the microphone too. So if they're on the microphone, if they have a platform to speak, then yeah, I considered it my civic duty to speak out against that, especially when they're saying that that people will go to hell for things they can't control, like being gay, or being or that I'm sure a lot of them secretly think that being black is also a problem, unfortunately, and that's ridiculous.
That's when you channel your inner Clint Eastwood, take out your shotgun and go, "Get out of my school."
Exactly. but yeah, so yeah, anyway, whether or not they listen, whether or not it made any difference in the moment, I considered it my duty to speak out against stuff like that, because if maybe sometimes they like being challenged, but also if no one challenges them, then they feel like they got away with it. They got away with having their stupid, vicious platform to spew hate, and thought that people actually appreciated it, actually bought it up. So we have to show that we're not buying it, and that will not fly.
What I mean? Yeah, exactly. you did bring up a good example right there, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was good.
Thank
Also,
you.
while you were talking, I also thought about this other example of calling people out on their bullshit. I wish I brought it up, but I don't know if you've been hearing in the news lately, but 50 wrestlers have filed a lawsuit against the WWE for negligence of neurological brain damage.
Really? No, I had not heard about this.
Yeah, and
I'm guessing it's kind of similar to maybe the football cases.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing though, and the only one who's really who makes a strong case is Jimmy Snuka, because he does have some brain damage. In fact, he's had so much brain damage that he was called into court several months back for a case of that he committed murdered his ex-girlfriend in the 80s, and he says that he doesn't remember. He says that and because of his brain damage, he can't stand trial. Yeah,
really.
Yeah,
wow, that's fascinating.
And
okay.
of course, and now with all these concussions and stuff like that, and I just call bullshit on some of these wrestlers. Most of these wrestlers who have filed the lawsuit. Well, just to name a few, there's the tag team Demolition. Definitely call bullshit on that. I think that's out of bitterness. Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff, who's in the WWE Hall of Fame. Of course, that's bullshit because he ended his career in WCW. And the signature move, the pile driver, he gave people pile drivers. Road Warrior Animal, definitely I'm really surprised with him, and I've had all the respect for him, part of the greatest tag teams of all time. And I think it's because, the relationship is strained with Vince McMahon and WWE, and also because his brother, John Laurinaitis, has a job there at WWE. And, of course, Marty Jannetty from the Rockers. Of course, that's out of bitterness, too. Sabu and Shane Douglas from ECW. Most of their times was spent in ECW, so there's no way they got injured or any concussions in WWE.
Okay.
So it's...
Yeah. So, I mean, I can see exactly where you're coming from. I personally do believe that there's a big case to be made about brain damage, but yeah, I guess you are right that it does have to be for the right reasons in the right context, that type of thing. Because you don't want it to backfire. You don't want people to then look at a negligent case and say, oh well, that proves that there's no brain damage or whatever. That would backfire for the cause. So I understand that
exactly. And for those of you. No, we are not sticking up for the company because I can see it right now. People going, oh, WWE fanboys. Oh, you've watched WWE all your life, and that's why you're sticking up for the company. No, WWE has done some bullshit that wasn't right. They've done a lot of shit that wasn't right.
Right.
Whether it's Triple H, whether it's Vince McMahon, or whoever's in charge, they've done a lot of shit that wasn't right. But when I look at this lawsuit, I mean, the only one that has merit is... Jimmy Snuka. Everyone else, it's just bullshit. And these are people who I've had the utmost respect for in the ring as performers and as human beings.
Right. So if you saw them in person, I mean, you like you said, you had respect for them. You'd still call them out.
Well, yeah, of course I would call them out, especially Shane Douglas, because. Shane Douglas, he's been wrestling on the independents, and he's actually had a job working at Target, because he learned management. He has a college background, and he said one time in a shoot interview, that's where they talk, a shoot interview is when they talk about their past in the wrestling business and what they're doing now and stuff.
Okay, yeah.
And, he talked about how he has a college degree, he does have a college degree, and he said, like, I will flip burgers in order to feed my family. That's what a man does. And you know what? I respected that. But after seeing his name on the lawsuit, it's just... And plus, he was in WWF for only, like, 7 months. And most of the time, he was mostly doing promos. He didn't really wrestle that much.
Right.
And
so you're saying he couldn't have actually gotten injured that way?
yeah, exactly. And you know, and it's just it's horrible. And plus, I even respected him, and I respected some of these wrestlers who say that they want a union in wrestling
Mm-hmm.
because I don't know if you know the law, but in professional wrestling, professional wrestlers are contract independent contractors. Sorry,
Right,
independent
right.
contractors, so they don't have to
Yeah,
pay much money on taxes.
right.
But whenever they've signed a major thing like WWE or WCW back in the days, it was like, well, they were exclusively towards them.
Mm.
So it's like, okay, you say I'm an independent contractor, but from the moment I get up in the morning, you tell me where to be. You tell I can't change the flight,
Mm.
you know, and you're telling me where I'm going to wrestle. When if I'm an independent contractor, I could say like, no, I'm not going to wrestle on that day, and I can make my own schedules.
Right, right. Okay, yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. So yeah, I mean, you know, workers' rights issues. This goes into all of that as well. I mean, it's like tied into that. You know, they get the publicity and the work off their back. You know, in their cases, literally, because they're fighting and putting their back, their bodies on the line. But yeah, then all the what I guess you're saying, an independent contractor, it's like all the benefits of being, slightly, uh, disconnected from them, but at the same time, they're also completely connected to them because they, like you said, they tell them where to be, how to go about their business, and how to train, how to fight, that type of thing.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's why their wrestlers should fight hard for a union.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are by law they are independent contractors.
Right.
In fact, the girls at the Bunny Ranch, from that show Cat House, the show Cat House on HBO, where it was about the girls on the Bunny Ranch and stuff like that in Las Vegas.
Okay.
Yeah, they're independent contractors too. Come to find out.
There you go. And yeah, that's a whole other interesting thing, and I think there's a good case to be made for that. It actually also reminds me of the whole student athlete thing. In football and in baseball, student athletes, they're in this weird conundrum right now where well, they always have been, where they're getting the education through the school and whatnot, and that's how they're able to be student athletes. There's absolutely no compensation because of that. I don't know if you've heard of that in the news as well, and they're fighting to try and be paid by the NCAA. It's the organization that runs that whole deal. And some people have said that it's too difficult to differentiate them as students versus athletes, but I mean the NCAA is specifically there, in my opinion, they're specifically there to put them out there as athletes, and so in terms of that business relationship, they should be seen as their employer, and they should be for what they, a lot of students get a job while they're in school, so the NCAA, in my opinion, should be seen as their employer, even though they're also in school, and therefore compensate them. But that's a huge issue, and a lot of people will bring up the reasons why it shouldn't be, but that's I think it's the same type of deal. We're putting out our effort, and yes, the fans are benefiting from it, but also the company is benefiting from it majorly.
Yeah, especially when those those bowl games, towards the end of the year, those bowl games, they're corporate sponsored,
Yep.
The Tecmo, the Liberty, and then there's the Tostitos Fiestas, and those bowl games are sponsored by corporate companies.
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. And then the problem is, then they're less of a, then they're more of a commercial. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There was actually an episode of kind of tied to that. There was an episode in the New Muppets. I don't know if you've seen the New Muppets.
Oh
TV
yeah, I've
show.
seen a little bit of it before it got canceled. Yeah,
it's super funny and I love it a lot. And they're a lot more grown up and sophisticated in their humor, I think. And but anyway, there's this one part where there's I think it's one of the guys either from 30 Rock or Parks and Rec who's like pretending to be this manager that comes into the network that shows Late Night with Miss Piggy, which is the show. And anyway, he's like changing everything, and Kermit's trying to keep his authority as the previous boss, still the boss as the co-boss, whatever you want to call it. And he has to call bullshit on him almost every turn. And finally the new manager is like, so yeah, I was thinking we could we could bring in more money by like having these sponsors, and you could do these sketches about it. And he's like for instance, there's the Dorito Bowl or whatever. And he's like, okay, but Kermit's like, what's funny about that? And he's like, well, nothing, because you can't make fun of the product. And Kermit's like, well, okay, that sounds like a commercial though, and my employees will not take kindly to being asked to do an ad. So calls bullshit on him, I forget how it ends, but eventually, of course, it works itself out. But yeah, another reason, that has to do with the future of your company and the integrity of your show. So, of course you should call bullshit on that.
Exactly. People just in general, they need to call people out on their bullshit.
Exactly.
That's what makes the world so great, is that we can, but of course we tell them like, hey, what you're doing is bullshit, and you need to fix that.
Yes, exactly. That's the other thing. It's not just to be, an agitator. It's not just to disrupt. I mean, that's I think the criticism, when you say things like that, is like, oh well, you're just disrupting without any solutions, or you're just agitating without any solutions. No, there is a solution, and that's for you to fix it, to fix this lie that you've been telling people.
Exactly. Even Alex Jones, when he gets into this whole thing about the New World Order, and they're what are doing with our tax money? They're trying to take away our guns. He's even telling them like, hey, fix the problem.
Exactly. Which is why I used to respect Alex Jones. No longer, but I do respect anyone who's trying to shine a spotlight on those issues, or is trying to, especially from within the company, whistleblowers. We should definitely have protection on whistleblowers.
Oh, wow. What made you lose respect for Alex Jones?
It's probably a bit much to go into right now, but
well, make a long story short.
Yeah, I guess it's the same thing that made me realize that like libertarians aren't quite as liberal as I had hoped. It's a good idea that sounds good, but when it comes down to it, there's no actual alternative to government, except for corporations to take over. So, this whole get the government off our back, well, it's a lot worse if corporations are all over your back, and that's exactly what I don't want. So, sorry, Alex Jones, sorry, libertarians, I don't actually respect you now.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. That's good. And it was a good conversation, man.
It was.
Yeah, it really was. Almost therapeutic.
Yeah.
And now we're gonna get into chew on this. Speaking of therapeutic, last week I heard that they could be bringing back the MBTA late night service.
Oh yes.
Yeah, man. Because of course, we talked about this in a video several months back.
Yeah.
They got rid of it. They said that because not enough people were using it.
Right.
But
it wasn't generating enough money. Always the bottom line.
Yeah. But then they said in the news is that they didn't account for people who work jobs, like low-income people and stuff like that. So they're saying that
I actually used to work till midnight, and sometimes would be asked to stay later. And I could only accommodate staying later on Friday nights because of the late night schedule. So I was actually taking advantage of that when I could.
Yeah, and to bring it back to the realm of fighting, because of course people are probably watching this video going, okay, when they're going to talk about fighting again? So politics. And
some people are.
Yeah, some. Yeah, some of them are like, well, why are we talking about politics and professional wrestling and the New World Order? And why? Can we get back to fighting? Some
people are glad that you're not talking about fighting anymore, for my opinion. But anyway.
Yeah. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
I used to go to Causeway. I would go to Causeway a lot for fights.
Right.
And
yeah, we talked about this, I think, as well. You're saying that you would not be able to see as many fights out anymore because
those
once this ended.
Well, yeah, because I would only go to Causeway for the fights that I couldn't order on pay-per-view. I couldn't afford to order.
Right.
And I would go there, have my cider and my cheese fries, and and I'd watch the fights.
Right.
And in fact, when we were doing Ringside with Matt and Gabe, I was telling you the story how I saw that Lawler versus Condit fight at the at Causeway Bar, and two women from England were, they came down here to watch the fight. They were huge UFC fans. They're huge combat sports fans. Period.
Yeah.
And it was. That just goes to show you, the popularity of the UFC.
Yeah.
In fact, for the McGregor versus Diaz fight, the first fight, I sat with a couple from North Carolina, who came up to Boston and they were watching the fight.
Right. So anyway, you would watch it at Causeway, but then then I'm guessing it would be on like Friday or Saturday night, and you knew that you could take the transportation home.
Yeah, Saturday night, after the fight, I'd stay on the street a little bit, trying to get some pussy. No luck. Or just talk with people about the fights, and then I'd go on my merry way.
Right.
And of course, when they canceled the late night service, my thought was, oh great, now not only do I have to save up money for a cover charge and for food and drinks, I also got to save up money for a cab.
Right. Which is huge. Yeah. I mean, like that would discourage a lot of people from from going out and entertainment and whatever. I remember when we talked about this when it ended. We were both very upset, and he said, that will discourage a lot more people from staying out, and then especially on the weekend, you should encourage people to stay out. Some businesses are built off of the weekends, bars and restaurants and whatever.
Yeah, especially baseball season, with the Red Sox.
Yep.
I mean, because sometimes baseball games, they go into extra innings.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, or even Celtics games, because Celtics games, you don't know when those games will end. They can go into 3 overtimes.
Yeah, exactly.
If I pay a lot of money for Celtic games, especially if they're front row seat tickets.
Oh yeah.
Saying I gotta leave early. I feel like I've wasted my money.
Yeah, exactly. And I bet a lot of people have to do. A lot of fans that go and pay so much for those tickets have to deal with that. Concerts and stuff. Concerts bring in entertainment from outside, so that's a huge load of money. From outside, and from these big corporate sponsors and these big top tier performers, and they come in and whatever, and that also would discourage people from staying at the concert, and therefore might have people thinking twice about buying the ticket if they'd have to leave early.
And also it cuts down on drunk driving late at night too.
That too, which is a lot safer. And I mean, plus if you're really thinking about, it's taxpayer money. Well, what else is taxpayer money? The cops to pull people over and make sure people aren't drunk driving. That's also a lot of taxpayer money wasted, and I would bet a lot more than to keep the trains running.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, I had a lot of good nights on late night service. I mean, especially the last night of it, me and a friend of mine. Well, actually, mostly me. I got fucked up. I mean, I actually, because I was watching the NCAA playoffs to the college basketball tournament, and I also remember like I went to 7-Eleven. I got a big 25-ounce can of Bud Light Lime Margarita Watermelon.
Yeah.
Put it in the cup, and I remember like drinking it as I was going into North Station, and I saw these cops. They were amongst themselves shooting the breeze, and I just remember like thinking, oh, I'm drinking out in public, and of course I gave him the finger secretly, and I was like, fuck you, I'm breaking the law.
Right. Ain't it fun? But yeah, anyway, so all of that is a reason to keep it. And then, there's another idea I had, but I don't remember. Anyway, you should encourage people to be staying out later at night, and then especially, when people from larger cities come and visit, like, I'm sure I've actually heard this a lot of people being like, well, what the hell's this shit? We have to worry about the last train at 1 a.m. Like in Philadelphia and New York, we don't have to worry about that.
Well, yeah,
especially not at 1 a.m. It's 2, 3 a.m. before things start winding down.
Oh yeah, exactly. And of course, my mom, my mom is trying to get me like to be a little more responsible. One of the things is worrying about me being out so late at night. I mean, we even got into an argument about how late at night I'm going to stay out for New Year's Eve. Of course, I'm going to be out all night. I don't care what she says.
Yeah, exactly. I was about to say, that's pretty ridiculous. New Year's Eve is New Year's Eve. And, they do realize that, that certain nights, New Year's Eve, is actually very important to let people be able to stay out as long as they need to. And so, yeah, they actually do extend, I'm pretty sure they do extend the transportation until like 3 or 4 New Year's Eve night.
Oh yeah,
So if you can do it then, I mean.
Yeah, but hopefully they'll bring it back, and we would love to see it back, man.
Oh yeah,
especially for fight fans and also for me because I like to party.
Yeah, exactly.
And of course, Gabe's thing is going off, so it's time to wind it down. Yeah. So go to youtube.com/Bloody Knuckles TV, subscribe. And you can also check us out on our Facebook page. I'll be doing 2 blogs today, so you can check them out after you watch them. Right. And we'll be back next week.
All right. From Beantown to your town.
This is the Beantown Beatdown saying Vios con Dios.